The fighting in eastern Ukraine is heating up. Verkhnyo-Kamyanska, sitting right on the Donetsk-Luhansk border, has turned into a fierce battleground between Ukrainian and Russian forces. The K2 battalion of the 54th Mechanized Brigade has been holding the line day and night, pushing back wave after wave of enemy attacks. In a recent battle, a single company managed to hold its ground against an assault from 4 different directions. Despite Russia constantly switching up its tactics, Ukrainian troops are standing firm, using drones and artillery, and good old-fashioned grit to push them back. Meanwhile, on the world stage, things aren't any calmer. The political debate over military aid to Ukraine is in full swing, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and US President Donald Trump making headlines. Trump questions whether the US should keep supporting Ukraine, while Zelensky insists that continued aid is crucial. How this political back and forth will play out is anyone's guess, but for soldiers on the front lines, the fight goes on regardless. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. In this video, we'll break down an intense assault on the K2 battalion that took place at the end of January, and how Ukrainian forces managed to turn the tide. Despite heavy fire, they held their ground, using everything at their disposal to keep the enemy at bay.
But before we dive into this topic, let's take a quick look at a summary of recent events from the past weeks.
Kharkiv, February 24, 2025. Heavy munitions are being effectively deployed against enemy infantry. The first strike lands near the occupying soldier, causing injuries. The second precision strike follows, directly neutralizing the target. Smoke rises from the Russian soldier. He has been eliminated.
On the same day, a reconnaissance drone detected enemy forces hiding in the bushes nearby. An FPV drone locked onto the target and scored a direct hit, resulting in the loss of a limb for the enemy soldier.
February 25, 2025. A Russian soldier noticed the drones and attempted to flee and hide. However, the FPV drone tracked its target relentlessly, executing a direct strike and eliminating him. A reconnaissance drone identified the presence of a Russian BMP, infantry fighting vehicle. The operator carefully aimed and delivered a precise hit. A powerful explosion followed, with thick smoke filling the area. Continued observation confirmed the detonation of the ammunition and the BMP catching fire. February 28, 2025. In an open field, a Russian infantry group was spotted moving. An FPV drone was deployed. As it approached, one of the enemy soldiers attempted to escape, but the drone pursued and struck him directly. The reconnaissance drone detected a group of Russian soldiers retreating towards their shelter. The FPV drone operator skillfully maneuvered the drone inside, destroying the shelter completely. A bright explosion and thick smoke were observed. The shelter was neutralized. A thermal imaging reconnaissance drone identified a Bukhanka belonging to Russian forces. The location where the vehicle stopped and troops disembarked was recorded. The first strike damaged the vehicle, while the second strike hit the Bukhanka directly. A powerful explosion and fire were observed. The vehicle was destroyed. This location was a Russian mortar position. The FPV drone carefully approached the target, took precise aim, and struck the shelter directly. The second shot also scored a perfect hit. The mortar position was completely eliminated. February 16, 2025. A reconnaissance drone identified a Russian Nona, air-transportable mortar system. The first FPV drone lost control as it approached the target but still managed to hit the shelter. An explosion was observed. This time, the drone directly entered the Nona, striking the target. A powerful explosion and rising smoke were recorded. The third FPV drone carefully aimed and entered the vehicle's top hatch. The reconnaissance drone confirmed the explosion, smoke, and fire inside the vehicle. Heavy munitions continued to prove effective against Russian infantry. The first strike landed near a soldier, knocking him to the ground. The second strike eliminated another infantryman. The third and final hit completely neutralized the previously wounded enemy. February 17, 2025, a reconnaissance drone detected 2 Russian soldiers moving in open terrain. An FPV drone was deployed. The soldiers panicked, attempting to flee and shoot down the drone. One of them dove to the ground, but the FPV drone hit directly. The target was eliminated. During reconnaissance of Russian positions, an enemy vehicle was spotted. The drone struck it directly. Further assessment confirmed that the vehicle was completely burned out. The target was destroyed. A reconnaissance drone identified a Russian artillery shelter. As it approached the target, the drone's video connection was lost, forcing the operator to continue in blind flight. The reconnaissance drone later confirmed that the strike had landed successfully. Russian troops were seen emerging from the shelter, attempting to reinforce the area. At that moment, a second FPV drone was already on its way to the target. Another direct hit was recorded.
Now, let's move on to the late January attack on the K2 battalion from 4 directions and how they managed to repel it.
The first wave of the attack is forming. Russian troops are gathering at their starting positions, preparing to launch their assault from the first direction. Their goal is to break through Ukrainian defenses, but they're about to face strong resistance. With intel from reconnaissance drones, 2 Night Doctors bombing drones are sent into action. These drones are built for nighttime strikes, using infrared vision to hit their targets with pinpoint accuracy, even in total darkness. What makes them even deadlier? Their engines are nearly silent, giving the enemy almost no warning before impact. The drones lock onto their targets, and the strike is about to begin. As the drones glide through the night, they remain undetected, blending into the darkness. Their operators carefully adjust their altitude and trajectory, ensuring the perfect angle for the drop. Below, Russian forces are unaware of the silent threat hovering above them. The drone, using its infrared vision, detects a Russian soldier lying hidden among the trees. Without visible movement, he might have gone unnoticed, but not to the Night Doctors. Boom! A deafening explosion erupts, shaking the forest. During the second wave of attacks, Russian soldiers are detected trying to infiltrate through the wooded area. However, their attempt doesn't last long. The Night Doctors quickly step in, and the bombardment begins. Bombs dropped among the trees turn the area into a fiery hell. A Mavic drone equipped with a thermal camera accompanies a heavy bombardment drone, providing target correction for precise strikes. There is no escape. A Russian soldier dashes into the depths of the forest, trying to break away from the chaos. But the eyes in the sky have already locked onto him. Even though the footage is blurred, the outcome of the bombardment is undeniable. A small fire flickers in the distance, subtle but telling, but the operation isn't over yet. Another bomb drops, then another. All movement in the area comes to a halt. For the drones circling above, it's just another target eliminated. But for those on the ground, it's the moment they realize running won't change anything. Another Russian soldier trying to escape from a kamikaze drone, but this time his fate is different. As he runs, he fails to pay attention to his surroundings, just as a Ukrainian soldier takes the shot. A single bullet ends his escape for good. In the foggy theater of war, Russian forces advance from the third direction. Armored vehicles push toward Ukrainian positions. The thick layer of mist conceals their presence, but Ukrainian reconnaissance drones silently glide overhead, tracking every movement. Despite the limited visibility, the drone's advanced thermal cameras provide a clear picture of the enemy's movements. Ukrainian defense units remain patient, waiting for the perfect moment, and then it arrives. Kamikaze drones spring into action. Following predetermined coordinates, they rapidly descend toward the armored targets. Among them, 2 MTLB armored vehicles are locked in as primary objectives. But this is just the beginning. Ukrainian artillery units join the fight. With real-time data from the drones, precision strikes rain down. Explosions rip through the battlefield, neutralizing the armored vehicles. Moments later, the drones return for another round, ensuring the destruction process is complete.
An attack is launched from the fourth direction against the K2 battalion. Russian forces are using a dense smoke screen to conceal their movements in this sector. Their goal is to deploy armored vehicles without being visually detected and execute a surprise landing. The smoke acts as a natural barrier against thermal cameras and optical surveillance systems, making it difficult for drones and reconnaissance units to track enemy movements. Ukrainian forces have anticipated this tactic and respond by activating artillery units. Using predetermined coordinates, 155mm howitzers and multiple rocket launch systems unleash a heavy barrage. The objective is to disrupt the movement of armored targets before they can fully advance under the cover of smoke. Will Russian forces succeed in their planned deployment, or will Ukraine's precision artillery fire neutralize the attempt? Tension on the battlefield continues to rise. At the front lines, a mine-clearing tank is actively working to clear the path for the next convoy. Its large rotating flails strike the ground, detonating or displacing potential mines. These tanks are designed with reinforced armor to withstand explosions, making them essential for high-risk frontline operations. However, Russian movements do not go unnoticed. A Ukrainian reconnaissance drone, silently observing from high altitude, detects the tank and immediately reports it to command. A quick decision must be made. If the tank completes its task, Russian armored vehicles and troops will be able to advance safely. To prevent this, kamikaze drones are deployed. Following preset coordinates, a drone rapidly descends toward the target, carrying a high explosive warhead. The impact strikes the front section of the mine-clearing tank, creating a powerful explosion. Smoke rises, but the tank remains partially operational, as these vehicles are built to withstand direct attacks and mine blasts. Although the drone strike slows it down, it is not enough to neutralize the tank completely. At this point, Ukrainian artillery units step in. Using real-time coordinates provided by drones, 155mm howitzers unleash precision strikes.
As the mine-clearing tank moves forward, an unexpected sight emerges behind it. 2 Russian soldiers on a motorcycle, closely following the tank in an attempt to infiltrate deeper into K2 battalion territory. These types of motorcycles are frequently used in combat for reconnaissance, resupply, and rapid assault missions due to their speed and agility. Russian Spetsnaz and reconnaissance units often favor motorcycles because they are lightweight, quiet, and highly maneuverable. Unlike heavy armored vehicles, military enduro motorcycles can quickly traverse muddy terrain and slip through narrow passages, making them ideal for deep penetration missions. Ukrainian drones quickly detect their movement. A kamikaze drone, hovering above, locks onto the motorcycle and begins a rapid descent. With AI-assisted targeting, these drones can track even fast-moving objects, but a fraction of a second can make all the difference between a direct hit and a miss. At the last moment, the motorcycle swerves, causing the drone to miss its target and crash into the ground just behind them. A violent explosion erupts, kicking up dust and debris, but despite the blast wave, the motorcycle pushes forward without stopping. Their mission is clear: penetrate deep into K2 battalion territory, gather intelligence, or carry out a surprise attack. Ukrainian defense forces are well aware of these high-speed infiltration tactics, and now they must quickly adapt countermeasures. Unlike slow-moving armored vehicles, fast-moving motorcycles present an entirely different kind of threat. Two Russian soldiers on a motorcycle speed through the battlefield, finally reaching four fellow soldiers waiting near the ruins of a collapsed building. Now a six-man squad, they have advanced dangerously close to Ukraine's K2 defensive positions. Their objective is clear: penetrate enemy lines for reconnaissance or launch a rapid assault. But Ukrainian forces are not about to let this happen unnoticed. A kamikaze drone is deployed first, small, fast, and lethal. Using its electro-optical targeting system, the drone locks onto its target and rapidly descends. Just meters away from impact, one of the Russian soldiers makes a last-second dive, barely escaping certain death. However, Ukraine's defense does not rely on a single strike. This time, a bombardment drone is launched. Unlike kamikaze drones, these UAVs carry FPV-guided precision munitions, allowing operators to manually direct bombs onto enemy positions. A deadly rain from the sky begins to fall as the bombardment drone unleashes its payload over the Russian unit. The battle once again highlights the dominance of technology. Tactics that once required airstrikes and fighter jets are now executed with a single drone. The question remains: will the Russian unit survive this wave of attacks, or will Ukraine's relentless drone surveillance leave them with no escape?
Operations against Russian positions continue with the support of reconnaissance drones, FPV strikes, and heavy munitions. Each successful hit disrupts enemy advances, once again proving the effectiveness of Ukraine's defense. The combination of technology and battlefield tactics continues to shift the balance of power. The fight goes on, with new strategies and countermeasures shaping the battlefield every day. Stay tuned. We will keep bringing you the latest updates straight from the front lines.